Good evening and welcome back to Church Unplugged with Shield of Faith. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Wednesday to join us this evening. We are super excited for our conversation tonight. And we're going to be talking on Mother's Day and motherhood. And you don't have to be a mother to join, you don't have to be a woman to join. We're going to be talking on a bunch of different things tonight. So we're excited and we hope you are too. As always, before we jump in, feel free to leave any comments. Any questions that you may have, we'll be monitoring the chat throughout the night. So we will definitely make sure to address any that we get. I am so honored to be joined tonight by our incredible pastor, Mr. Frank McElhaney, and his daughter, Tanya Cummings. We have a father-daughter duo tonight. So we're super excited.
Before, right?
We have, yes, absolutely. And with that, we can go ahead and get started. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. Doing great.
Doing good.
How about you?
Doing good. Thank you so much. It's crazy to me. We're nearing the end of the school year right now and things are crazy, but
Absolutely.
doing good. The church building is getting some stuff done to it, I hear.
Yeah.
It's looking good.
We're still moving forward.
Yeah. Awesome.
We're still in the process of all of the big stuff. So once we get down to where we get the building started, it'll be good.
That's awesome. It's so exciting seeing movement out there finally.
Yes, it is.
I did a little Facebook Live out there the other morning with it, just everything done. It was so cool looking.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I smile every time I pass by it. So that's super awesome to see. Well, as we mentioned, Mother's Day is coming up this weekend. If you didn't know, you got a couple days left to get some gifts. So run out there.
Get to the store.
Yes, exactly. And so we just wanted to have an open conversation tonight, just on a couple of different things, but just starting us out, I'm going to ask you, Tanya, if you don't mind sharing, you are a mother. If you don't mind just sharing a little bit of your journey into motherhood, how many children you have, and just how that was for you.
My favorite topic. I love to talk about my kids. So I think as far back as I can remember, when I didn't have real children, and I was a kid, I had stuffed animals as children and the dogs. I used to play house all the time, and I loved to do all of that. I've always had a heart to be a mom, and but I think too, a lot of that was just watching the relationship that I had with my mom. When I was younger, I just knew that my mom was amazing, and I didn't know. I just thought that kind of happened, but she just happened to be an amazing mom, and I loved that relationship. So I did want to foster that with my own children if I had them someday. And I think I knew early that just because you desire to have children doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the path that is before you. Or that there's so many different ways to be able to have children, that whether it be through adoption or being able to have your own child, or just the different circumstances that different mothers face that a lot of times people take for granted and just think, oh, that's the next step in life.
For sure.
So Scott and I had talked about, after we got married, about wanting to have kids. And I actually, we didn't get to see each other too much because he was gone a lot in the Marine Corps. But, we tried for over 2 years before I got pregnant with Ashlyn. So I have 2 daughters and both are grown now, which is so crazy. I was changing insurance on our house today, and it was so funny because I almost stopped for a second whenever they were asking if my daughter Brooke is she still, lived there with you? And I was like, well, no. Well, it's always been her home of record while she's been in college, but no, she's gonna. So it kind of, kicked me in the gut a little bit. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I really this is legit. I'm done raising my girls. So I lost my mother in 2010. It was one of the hardest things that I ever experienced. I was blessed to have, an amazing mother-in-law who also served the Lord. whenever I married Scott, and then unfortunately we lost her last year. And so I've had several spiritual moms, and people that I consider and hold dearly. So I just think motherhood and everything about it, regardless if it be your physical mom, spiritual, adoptive, like it's just like it's a beautiful gift and a beautiful opportunity to sow into people's lives. So
Absolutely. Well, and I love that you mentioned there's so many different ways to be a mom. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be that traditional way. I think that's so beautiful. And I'm curious, Pastor, so you've known Tanya her whole life. you know, you've seen her in every stage. So I'm just curious to get your perspective on what it was like for you watching her grow up and become a mother while being your daughter at the same time. How is that transition for you?
Well, in the first place, if it hadn't been for her mother, I probably wouldn't have let her date anybody until she was 30. Tanya and I have actually had a really close relationship. She was very close with her mother. It was a very unusual relationship. I mean, and unusual, I don't mean it was just unusual for people, a mother and daughter, to be that close,
right,
and remain that close with her mom for that many years. And they were actually mother and daughter, but they also best friends. And it was, that's, generally if I'm talking to somebody, a parent, I tell them, you got to be a parent or a friend. You got to choose. But they actually made it work really good, because I think your mother was very good at being a mother, and she learned from her mom, who
very much so.
basically learned on her own.
Yeah.
And so the thing that happened was, Tanya is a person that has to do everything exactly right. It's perfect. And so that was one of the problems she had raising children, was she wanted everything to be exact. She wanted to do it exactly right. So she was always asking questions and always trying to get everything reading books. And if the child got a scratch, she was ready to take them to the emergency room or whatever, But even when they got, I don't know, they were still young when I started. We would make omelets and stuff, and Tanya would say, "Don't let them use the knife. Don't let them use the fork. Don't let them, And I would tell her, just let me. But she,
which are now our favorite memories.
She actually was very, just like most mothers, very protective, very concerned, and actually grew up as when she became a mother, she actually began to grow as a person.
Yeah.
And I think that happens to most mothers.
Yeah,
I'd say that happens to most mothers. And I think realizing the responsibility that she really had and all of that kind of stuff, it's almost overwhelming.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
But she would do stuff with her children and see. I really, I've admired her since she was a child, just because of the way she conducted herself. And my son the same way. I mean, I won't take away from. He actually has just really. I've admired him. Once he started, he became a dad. He's an excellent dad. Actually, Katie and Lily have excellent moms.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a really with the family. I think but Tanya is really grown as a person through motherhood. And it hasn't been easy on her
Mhm.
either. There's been a lot of stuff that, when you have children and you have to deal with things.
Yeah.
I mean, Ashlyn had some incidents that, caused everybody a lot of stress, but she has been through a lot.
Yeah.
And still loves her daughters
Mm-hmm.
and supports them, and they support. And I think she's kind of fostered the same relationship with her daughters as she had with her mom,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe a little different, but really gone out of her way to do. And a lot of people don't realize how much, and I don't know if you'll speak to that. A lot of people don't realize, children don't realize how much a mother sacrifices for
Yeah.
their children. And I watched Tanya do that. And as a dad, you want to fix everything. And so as Tanya became a mother, I had to learn to stop fixing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, her mother told me,
Yeah.
you stop fixing everything.
Right.
And so, because she would call me about everything, and so, but the thing is that once she found out, she started learning what she could do, and a lot more than what she thought she could do.
Mm-hmm.
And found out she could handle a whole lot more than she was prepared to handle.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of mothers get totally overwhelmed and don't have any support. But you had some support.
Yes.
And I'll just say that you had some support around you, not just from your family, but from relationships you built with others around you that really kind of helped you through some of the tough times. But on the other side, as a mother, one of the things that she's done is helped other mothers.
Yeah.
And people talk about children needing a father figure in their life because there seems to be an absence of fathers, but they also have to have a mother.
Mm-hmm.
And that mother is really the person where you go to for that hug.
The nurturing aspect.
Yeah, the nurturing aspect of it. That's really where you go to for that hug, and not a hug that just like, I love you, get away now.
Yeah.
But a hug that you kind of feel. I can't maybe you can explain it better, I think, but it's not just there. No words are exchanged, but the emotion is exchanged.
Yeah, for sure.
And mothers are the only ones that can give those kind of hugs.
Yeah.
So, and
well, and I think that you've definitely given me those types of hugs as well. That when it comes to that, and one of the things when you were talking that I was thinking about is, if you have your mom here today still with you, that is such an incredible blessing. I lost my mom at an early age, but then there are people that have lost their moms when they were children. I mean, very early ages, or never got to meet their moms. And but I was thinking about this because there are so many things. We have always been close, but I think even too when mom passed away, there were so many things and times that I had gone to you and still got, motherly wisdom because it was things that you either watched mom do with us,
right,
or you knew that would be what mom would say. Those were ideas or thoughts that y'all shared. And some of the most incredible things, and the Lord would speak through you to me to give me that motherly comfort that I needed, that no one else really would have been able to do, because the Lord, we had that relationship. And I remember the day that I found out that I was gonna have to have surgery and have that. And I remember, Scott was gone and at a minister's meeting, and because you had just had a surgery, you were at the house, and I just couldn't go anywhere, but I had to go to your house. And I remember just sitting there, and there wasn't words for a little bit,
right.
It's like there was nothing to find and to say, but I knew what mom would say, and you said exactly what she would have said, and it was just that confirmation and knowing, I needed to go through with this and the surgery, and then come to find out it was cancer. Like, there's so many pieces of it that the Lord allowed you to use that, and and was such a blessing. But mothers, I think we look at each other sometimes, or we don't look at each other, we look at ourselves, and we think that this is what a picture perfect mother looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case. So you can be somebody that is you had mentioned, Nancy, my sister-in-law Nancy, and I just I admire her much as a mom. And I love, it's so neat. And her and I will talk, and we'll talk about the different things that we appreciate about one another, watching each other as moms. Like Carla and I will talk about those different things that we admire and love about each other as moms. And I look at Carla and I'm like, oh man, that's so amazing. And I think that's it. There's not a cookie cutter way to be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
That everybody, who you are when the Lord gives you someone to care for like that in a motherly way. And it doesn't matter how that comes about. If he gives you someone, even if it is not like a literal adoption, even just a young lady that's brought into your life, that is a mother figure, that there's no perfect way to be, I guess, in their life, but just speak life and love them. Just let them be who you are, and God will create the perfect relationship for you. And that's as a mom, Ashlyn and Brooke are totally different. They're completely different. And I can't be the mom that I am to Ashlyn the same way that I am to Brooke. And that's the same thing. We as moms, we're not the same. Me raising my kids the way that how Nancy or how Carla does wouldn't work the same way. And the same way that the way I am wouldn't work for them. And I can love them and respect them and think like they are like the best, most incredible moms out there. And I wish I would have done that. I mean, there are so many times like, oh man, I wish I would have been her. Because Carla is so good about, she will just the kids, the expressive side of just get out, paint everything, and paint can be flying everywhere. And I think, oh my goodness, my kids never experienced that because I was always wiping it all up while they were doing it. But that piece of it is just so awesome to me. And I love, my sister-in-law, there is every Saturday, the kids are always learning and culturally learning different things and all that. I'm like, man, I wish that I would have spent more time taking them on the weekend to the libraries and taking them to go be involved in the different things. But then I'm like, that's great. But it's okay that I didn't do those things, but I look at her and admire that so much.
Well, you have your strengths that you've given to your girls, you know what I mean? And that people admire you for. Everyone, every parent has their...
It's that same, and my sister-in-law is with, on Scott's, his sisters and stuff, it's so neat, the different things that they all bring. And I'm just oh, that's so awesome. They all have neat things they've done with their families that have made them as moms be the best ever. And it just comes down to women, respecting and understanding where we all come from for someone else, but also doing that for yourself, to be no, you're not a failure. And just because
for sure,
it didn't work out today, I can tell you what I did, to discipline Ashlyn, or what I did to, someone's used timeout, somebody's paying, all those different things. But what, even in my own home, what worked for Ashlyn didn't work for Brooke.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
it's the same
No.
thing with
Yeah.
moms.
Yeah.
There's just not a perfect way to do it all,
Yeah.
you know?
And I mentioned a while ago, a lot of people don't even realize a part of the sacrifice that mothers go through.
Mhm.
What all they sacrifice, time, emotion, money, a lot of things for children to, and I know that Tanya wanted to be involved in all kinds of stuff in school, and then she winds up with her daughters doing similar things in school, and trying to make all of that stuff happen can be very stressful on mom. And so really, and you're very correct about no children are the same, so moms aren't the same either.
Right.
And I am very wary about people who try to put motherhood in a box
Mhm.
and say this is the way you do motherhood. You know,
Right.
I think that to be honest with you, parents' job isn't to control their children's life. It's to prepare them to be able to enter life and handle it on their own without them their influence. So it's hard to take your hands off the wheel
Right.
as a mother sometimes. And I remember my mom. I remember how she did things. She's still around. I hope she's watching. But my mom was always the person I knew I could go home to.
Mhm.
I wasn't so sure about my dad, but I knew that my mom was a person that would listen to me.
Mhm.
And I've seen that happen with mothers with their children in prison. I've seen, the mom would be go do the visitation, do everything. Dad wouldn't hang around, wouldn't do nothing, But that's the way moms are.
Mhm.
And mothers, when Tanya was going through, even though she was a mother, that doesn't make life stop for you.
Yeah.
And she still had to do stuff that you had to go through sickness, you had to go through trying to get things done that had to be done. You had financial adversity, you had spiritual adversity, you had physical adversity, But the thing about being a mom to me is watching moms keep going when it doesn't look like they have anything to work with.
Mhm.
I'm serious,
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of respect for mothers.
Mhm.
And I like something Tanya said, I can't remember exactly, but you got to let them be who they are and love them, regardless. And that's the way you have to treat everybody.
Right.
All right. Is you have to let people become who they are and love them unconditionally.
Mhm.
And I think moms understand, or mothers, I keep saying moms, but mothers, I think mothers kind of have a better understanding about unconditional love than most men do.
Yeah.
Just because of that relationship they have with their children when you're born. So you can't overstate the importance of being a mother. And so you get to do life for yourself and you get to do life for your children too.
Mhm.
So
Well, and I think too, just to speak to those that, you may be a father that you've lost your wife.
Yeah.
And or maybe you're divorced and you have full custody of the kids,
Mhm.
or you're kind of, even whenever it's half and half, you're being mom and dad.
Yeah.
Just to encourage you, like, how much your children need you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to hone in, whether it be your mom or your wife, that you've lost, or you know how they may have handled different situations, and how much, speaking from experience, how much your kids need to hear your mom would have been proud of you,
Mhm.
or your mom would have thought that was funny. Like, it's so important, because the absence of a mom in your life, a physical absence like that, is so deep that, and even if it's because the mom, could possibly be dealing with an addiction, maybe they're out on the streets or doing it's, and so maybe you're a woman in the life of someone, or somebody that doesn't have a present mom.
Mhm.
Take the time to just speak life into them.
Mhm.
And you don't have to have all the answers, because none of us ever do, but people just need to know that they're loved, and that their mom's proud of them.
Yeah.
And that they, we even joke about that and stuff too. Scott will even say stuff to me sometimes and be like, your mom would not have liked that. And you're like, you're right. And I'll even say stuff like that to him sometimes, like, oh, your mom, she would not be having that.
She would have got
Or
you. Yeah.
say to the girls, your Nana would not have that. And because when you respect someone like that, it matters, because when you have lost, like, somebody can tell you 1,000 times, like, you better respect your mom and dad because they're not going to be here forever. You better love them. Go see them while you can do it. But then when you actually experience it, you're like, oh goodness,
Yeah.
I can't paddle back.
Yeah.
And it's so important to, dads just take that opportunity
And
to do that.
if people, if you've lost your husband or you've been divorced, never underestimate how important you are to your children.
Yeah.
Remember your children and love them. They're not going to love you any less. They're going to hold on to you, and just be as present in their life as you can.
Yeah, and the single moms that are out there that
hats off
are
to single
doing
moms.
like holding
everything
it all down, and I know this may be a little bit controversial to say this, but you know what? There's some single moms out there that aren't single. Like, they're doing it all themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, completely. They do not have a present husband. The children don't have a present father. So they literally are carrying the
It's
load.
very true. Yeah.
And in the same household. And even in that, acknowledge what people around you are walking through, and seeing those single moms, and an extra hand. That the time, I will continuously tell how much it meant to me that my Aunt Susan would stop by or give me a call and say, hey, I'm gonna come sit with the kids, is that okay? And so you can go out and go lay down and take a nap, or go
do
go
something
get a
for
drink
you
real quick.
Yeah.
Go to the grocery store alone.
Yeah.
And things like that make a difference. Like, it's huge, because you kind of lose your mind a little bit.
Well, and I think, just on that same note, if you're on the outside observing, don't be quick to judge.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
We've talked about this so many times, but just, if you see that mom with a crying toddler in the grocery store, don't get annoyed and roll.
Yes.
She could be trying her best, and just keep that in mind. I think that that goes along with that.
That's so good, Jade.
There's mothers that wouldn't come to church because their children would cry and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And it took us years to. Some of those kids that would cry turned into, they would be coming to everything that we had for children.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't mean they stopped crying.
Right.
But moms can have an opportunity to get blessed too. And
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you, that's one of the reasons we have programs for children is so mom, even if you're with your husband or by yourself, you can come and enjoy the presence of the Lord
Absolutely.
alone, or
Distraction free. Yeah.
without the children.
Right.
But you know that your children are going to be taken care of while you're there. So,
And two, if your kiddos are, because I think that most moms, they carry it on their shoulders. Like if they're, misbehaving, if they are, not making the right choices and everything, don't beat yourself up over it.
Mhm.
And remember that they are able to make their own choices.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, if your children are younger, and this I just have to, because of my job, I've got to say this, like, it is your responsibility to get them to school. It is your responsibility to get them to school on time. Those types of things, yes, that's your responsibility. Your kid doesn't get to tell you,
Right.
like, oh, I'm sorry, I turned my alarm off or whatever. No, you are responsible for getting them there and getting them there on time. But you're not the one that's making the bad choices that they're
Mhm.
making. Don't carry it and make it. I like thinking, because I know I did things as a kid or a teenager or whatever that were very opposite of what my mom taught me to
Right.
do. I knew they were wrong. And so many times moms and dads both can get very on themselves. Like, what did I do wrong? How did I go wrong on this?
Yeah.
Why did this? That's not what it's about at all whatsoever. I know that you can feel that way, but they are making their own choices, and you are doing the very best that you can. And as long as you continue just to put them in God's hand, it will all come back around. So
I will say right now, the things that I did had nothing to do with the way I was raised.
right.
Mhm.
My mother was very loving, and there was in my parents did everything they could to raise me well. I made my own choices.
Right.
And Jade said something that's really important is we don't need to be judging people, especially if you have a child that's crying. A lot of people that are very judgmental don't have any children, so they don't know how hard it is to take care of a child.
Yeah.
And a lot of children, if you're in a grocery store somewhere, the reason they're crying is because you told them they couldn't have that piece of candy or they couldn't have that toy. I've seen
Right.
children literally shame their parents into buying stuff for them because they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I will tell you right quick that Janet would not fall for that.
Yeah.
So, and my mom wouldn't fall for it either. She was quick to do that. But don't judge people that are dealing with in fact, the opportunity you have as a mother with your children is I don't know how I can tell you, it is so important that it is, it's very important that you don't treat your children the way other people think you should.
Right.
It's very important that you don't treat your children. It's these children need to know that you love them no matter what.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't mean that you don't discipline them when they do something wrong. I will say this, discipline doesn't mean that you hit your children. Discipline means that you're consistent in the way you approach correcting your children. So I think that mothers need support. Now, one thing I'll mention, a lot of mothers have to work. It's like they have to make a living, and so don't beat yourself up for that. That's where you are in life. You do good and do what you can, and then there are those that have the opportunity to raise their children. I've seen several mothers that were had an opportunity to raise their children, and once their children got to be teenagers, they would go to work or go back to work.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
And yeah, that's what you did. You raised your children, then you went back to work and did something, and that's a
That's admirable too.
And it was a sacrifice. Like it was,
Oh,
we
yeah.
didn't get to do a lot of the things that other people did. And, but it was worth that sacrifice, for us.
Right.
And that,
In today's world, with the things the way things are, it's hard to make it
Yeah.
have a house, 2 cars.
yeah, we
everything
couldn't now, like,
on
Yeah.
one
It's
on
crazy.
one income.
Mhm.
And I was blessed that I was able to allow my wife to be a stay-at-home mom.
Mhm.
And some people think that mothers that stay at home and take care of their children, that's something. But I'm telling you what, there's just as much work to raising one child. But if you have 2 or 3, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And like I said, they deserve the admiration and
Absolutely.
all the praise that they can get because of what they do. But in today's world, it's really tough for moms to make it and dads to make it with just one income.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just want to say, moms, don't let that take your heart away from the children.
Mhm.
well, then you have,
And when it gets to be Father's Day, I'll say a little
Same.
bit different to dads.
and you have moms that have children with special needs.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And that too is something where we need to, join together to be able to be a support, because depending on whatever that need might be, it could be physically challenging on the mom. It could be spiritually, it could be emotionally challenging. If they could be, tired, if the child has problems sleeping, or there's so many pieces to it that it's important too to be able to just support and be there to be able to say, hey, is there something that I can do to be able to help you? Could I, sit with your child so that you are able to go get rest, or, to go to the grocery store without possibly like having to get the wheelchair out and get everything, all those things that we so easily take for granted. I think you have to be careful sometimes of the things we say, because we can complain. And one of my most beautiful lessons was from my dear friend Monique, that has gone on to be with the Lord. And it was after she had just had her
telling
2.
Nancy about her.
Really? Yeah. Such a beautiful, I love her and miss her so much. But such a beautiful mom. She, and just in her story and understanding like what it was like, she did not just automatically get pregnant. And she did go through the whole infertility process, and she had 2 beautiful children. They were young, but she also, not too long after having them, was diagnosed with MS, and it was an aggressive form of it. And within a couple of years, she passed away. It was like fast.
It was very fast.
There was, and she was one of my, best friends. She was very, very dear to me, an amazing woman of God. And one day I had gone over to go see her, and she was lying in the bed. And at that time, she had not been out of the bed at all. And for a little bit. And I was saying, like, I just went to the grocery store. I hate the grocery store. And she looked at me with the most beautiful eyes and looked at me, serious as day. And she said, Tanya, I want you to go and dance up and down those aisles. And I looked at her and I kind of giggled. She's like, I'm serious. She said, when you can't go down them, you'll appreciate and wish you could.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm not going to say I don't complain about the grocery store still. I do. But it hit me like a ton of bricks. And it is true. We need to be careful of the things that we say, because when we are complaining, and let me tell you, like the things that frustrate frustrate you that your kid's getting in and doing things, you miss it. Whenever, and it goes by so
yeah.
fast.
Goes by
You're
so
like,
fast.
oh
Yeah.
man, I just wish I could hear that pitter patter, coming down the hallway, or the open door whenever you're trying to sleep and they wake up bright and early in the morning
Yeah.
and they want to, you miss those things. The difference between Christmas morning whenever you're having to go and wake them up compared to whenever they're coming and waking you up. I mean, it's just there, hold on to those memories. Understand that, it's not easy at all for anyone, but sometimes whenever it's easy for you and you've gone through your season, it may be the hardest season that another mother is walking through.
Yeah.
So it's good to share. And I think sometimes I will over say I've been there, just because I don't want a mom to feel like they are the only ones.
Yeah, right.
Because we tend to do that a lot. Like we can feel that way. Like we're the only ones that felt that way before.
I know moms with special needs children that have literally devoted their life to
Absolutely.
taking care of their
moms.
children.
We
Single
have
moms.
some
Single
amazing
moms that have devoted their life to taking care of their special needs children and have a blast.
Yeah.
And
that have
it's
we've
hard,
seen
very hard.
incredible. Like admirable that their kids are now in their 30s and 40s, and
Right.
it's amazing to see.
Yeah.
And when you have the heart, like he will carry you. He will. Like when we think we can't, he really can carry us through. Another thing we think a lot of times or talk a lot about mothers who have passed, but Mother's Day is just as hard for moms who have lost a child.
Children.
Oh,
Yeah.
my Lord,
And
yes.
it is like everyone's
Very
saying
true.
Happy Mother's Day, and especially sometimes if you've lost your children and they're the only child you have, like you don't have any others to kind of devote attention to, and that just kind of it's just really thinking beyond, and mom should be good at this. You do that beyond yourself, because and you lose yourself being a mom, like because everything's about being, taking care of them, but thinking about those moms that. And I have a very dear friend that, she had lost her son last year, and we were talking about that today at work, and I could just feel like, oh my goodness, it's Mother's Day week. Like we were talking about that because those emotions and everything that come up.
First Mother's Day.
Well, it was right
Second Mother's
after.
Day,
Yeah, the first one was so fresh, but it is hard, and just covering them in prayer and knowing that like the Lord sees you and he hears your cries, and he just wants to take you in his arms and hold you, and that you are an amazing mom.
Yeah.
Like there are so many beautiful memories that are there to have, and and I think even in that you end up the spiritual moms that are in our lives that have been women that have just spoken life into us. And Sister Neva will always be, I absolutely think the world of her. And I think of all the times that she's prayed with me, prayed over me, called me out of nowhere, we've had dreams that were, we'd wake up in the next morning and she'd have one part of the dream, I'd have the other part of the dream, and we just would laugh and giggle. And she taught me how to drive a car without even moving out of a parking lot. She did that for my kids. Like, it's just, like the spiritual moms that pray and show you the way.
Invest in you.
Invest
in you. And I'd say that one thing you need to be careful about, I'd say don't give moms advice until they ask for it.
Yeah, true. And don't think and moms don't say, or before you're a mom, don't say my kid will never.
Oh yeah.
Because your kid
they will do that exact
thing. A lot of times be worse.
Don't say your kid will never.
It really, there's a lot of
I remember one time Tanya was telling me one of her stories, and I just looked at her and I said, Tanya, how old do you think I really am?
Yeah. I know. Not always. Didn't always make the best choices.
But one of the things about being a mom that's pretty funny, and mom and dad too, is a lot of times children think they really pull something off,
Oh yeah.
but you know all the time. You just don't say anything about it. So it's a pretty cool thing to 30 years later be able to
Or when
say,
moms say they have eyes in the back of their head, and like
Oh, yeah.
legit as a
Oh,
kid, you're like, they really do.
It's true.
Like you're looking for them because you're like, how did you know that? There are so many things.
Yeah.
And then talking to my mom as I got older, and hearing the different ways that her eyes in the back of her head was God. I mean, he would
Yeah.
reveal things to her,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my goodness, you better watch out for your praying mamas, because that is
God's on
he
their side.
does reveal, and he does let you, like, that discernment. Oh my goodness. But
Yeah. We had a trip planned to Europe.
Mhm.
Oh, let's say I had a trip planned to Europe. I was fixing to buy the tickets. I mean, I was going to buy the Eurail pass and everything. We're going to go all across Europe and stuff like that. And then Tanya got pregnant.
oh,
And her mother told me, she said, well, you can plan all you want to, but I'm not going anywhere. And of course, by the time the baby was born, circumstances had changed,
Mhm.
and we never went, to
Yeah.
there. But it was. She just told me right straight up, well, I'm not going anywhere until after the baby's born.
and she also would say, and I haven't experienced it yet, but people tell me time and time again that there is nothing like, I thought being a mom was great, but being a grandma
Oh, yeah.
is like even the best thing. My
Yeah.
mother-in-law said the same thing. I mean, I've heard that from so many women. So
And
I'm looking for that next season of my life.
and your
Right.
children will go and stay with somebody else, and they tell you how great your children
Yes.
are, and you wonder the next morning,
Did they have
did
the
they
wrong
really
kid?
did they have the right kids?
I think
Yeah.
that there's a mixture of both. I think there's the kids that are really great for you, and then they go be with other people, and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
And then there's those of us
Mhm.
that were good. Yeah, really, really good. But then I definitely.
But the thing that people don't realize, again, I just want to say again, is that relationship that's built between the mother and the child is a relationship that is a lifetime relationship. It's
Mhm.
not something that and it's not something that's all sacrifice. Sometimes the reward of seeing your child do something
Mhm.
is just absolutely amazing. And I know Tanya is proud of her children. I get to hear every once in a while still about what the children have done, and I'm very proud of who Tanya is and who she's become, and not only that, who she could continue to be.
Yep.
Thank you, Dad. That means a lot to me.
That's so sweet. No, absolutely. And you both are just so admirable and just blessings in everyone's life. And you both should know
Thank
that.
you so much. Thank you.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention we got a couple of comments before we log off tonight. So Rookie Rides said hello to everyone. And then he also said 2 unconditional loves in life are God's love and a mother's love.
Wow.
True.
Which is very sweet, very true. Yes. And then Pastor Scott says she was an amazing lady. I assume talking about your mama. And then he says Tanya is awesome, just like her mama.
Oh, thank you.
So absolutely, we agree. Well, and thank you both so much for this conversation. I think it's really important. Everything that was touched on, and like we mentioned, if Mother's Day is a challenging time for you, just know that we are praying for you. and that you're seen by us and by the Lord. And so we hope that you can find some joy in this coming weekend.
Yes, absolutely.
Alrighty, with that said, you can join us next Wednesday, again at 7:00 on both Facebook and YouTube Live. You can catch Pastor every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 6:30 in the morning for his Keep the Faith devotions. You can also keep an eye out for the additional Facebook Live to keep an eye on the church property. I always like it because it's always a surprise. You never know when they're going to come. I'm like, oh, it's live. I got to see what he's doing. So those come every now and then. You can just stay up to date with what's going on at the property. And then you can, of course, join us every Sunday at Cinemark Stonehill at 9 a.m. for Sunday school and 10 a.m. for our Sunday service. As always, thank you all so much for taking the time to join us this evening. We're praying for y'all. We will see y'all next week, and we hope y'all have a very blessed rest of your week.
Good night.